What is up? Welcome on into another episode of Cold Weather Bats. We had a fantastic episode planned, but some things that have transpired within the MHSAA over the last week or so have pushed that to the forefront. So we're going to be diving into a handful of topics that are out there that a lot of people are seeing and discussing now. And those namely are going to be the big one that's been talked about for years, and that's going to be NIL in Michigan. What does that mean for MHSAA baseball players or just athletes as a whole? We're going to dive into that, as well as something else that has been discussed recently happening in other states. A popular topic for those discussing that's going to be private versus public. Should they be separated? Should they stay together? All of those and much, much more that we will be diving into today. But before we do dive into it, I'm going to turn it on over to our third member here, Griff, who is going to do what he does best here.
Like, comment, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. Hey, if your grandma's listening, if she's got nothing to do on a snowy day in January, what a perfect time to open up your browser and type in www.patreon.com/coldweatherbats or coldweatherbats.com, where you're going to get all your info on everything high school baseball. We're us three. Well, really, I'm a part-time guy. These other two are full-time. But anyway, all your baseball needs are going to be on these links. Please follow us on social media, but don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
If you are just tuning in, and maybe you're not a frequent flyer, you're just tuning in for this fun episode here. If you are unfamiliar, we have one of our marquee events coming up on February 28th. Three of us, we are absolutely pumped about it. Griff, the other corner, that is going to be the Cold Weather Bats Player Draft. It's all right. The mirroring got justice last week. That's going to be our Cold Weather Bats Player Draft. And what that is it's a real unique experience. Every player in the world wants to have their name called to walk across the stage of a MLB draft or any kind of sport for their draft. And we are putting that on for the high school players of the state of Michigan. We have much, much more information coming on that in the next week. If you are a player in the state of Michigan, keep a lookout on your social medias. There will be an invite coming your way. There could be an invite coming your way. And if so, we'd love to have each and every single one of you and your family there. Lots of ways that if you are a business, say this is a event that kind of piques your interest. It's something that we're able to recognize the kids and give a really cool experience for the players, something unique. In today's day and age, a lot of this is the players need to push, and not a lot of time for fun. We're here to give them a night of fun on February 28th before they head off to their high school tryouts, their high school seasons. So if that's something of interest, head on over to our website, coldweatherbats.com, to learn more. Brandon, Griff, how we doing, guys? It's cold.
Cold, freezing cold, a lot of snow. Hate snow, not a snow guy, never been a snow guy, never going to be a snow guy. And it feels like I don't know how often this happens, but every few years there's more snow than the regular, and then you go into the whole like, oh, this feels like the most snow we've ever had. Oh, this feels like the coldest we've ever been. Obviously it's not, but it feels like this is the most snow we've gotten in a short amount of time in a long time. Maybe not total amounts, but the accumulation period has been quite a bit. I am quite done with it. But like Michael and I were talking on the last episode, it's always a sign that it's a strange sign, but always a sign that baseball is around the corner in Michigan. So there is that silver lining.
I feel like this 3-week stretch, like from late or really 4-week stretch, like the second week of January, like right after MLK Day to like, after Super Bowl Sunday is probably the worst stretch in the history of Michigan weather, right? Because you're just miserable. There's no end in sight. Yeah, we have the short month coming up, but there is no end in sight when it comes to this weather. Like waking up like on Thursday morning this week, we're recording this on Tuesday, waking up Thursday morning and it's going to be -9 and I got to warm up the truck, which by the way, we might be starting a GoFundMe for Griff to get a new truck. We're just throwing that out there. Who knows what's going to happen? if I can make it on time. There might be a GoFundMe link towards the spring, depending on the viewership. So,
Well, there's the NIL we can start getting you.
oh, perfect segue, Rube.
It really is. We are going to dive right into this whole NIL thing. Really happened today. We're recording this Tuesday evening. We saw the articles coming out this afternoon, and if you were under a rock, or you might just not have known, there has been some movement. There's been talk over the years, but now the MHSAA has approved the expansion of NIL. And I think, guys, first, what's best before we go into this, on the MHSAA website, there is what they call in other words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and kind of just go through this here a little bit so the listening public can hear a little bit. What they're calling this is the NIL and personal branding activity. That's going to be PBA. You're going to hear that reference here a couple of times. PBA, and here's what we're going to get into this now. This is what's going to be allowed versus not allowed. PBA cannot be contingent on athletic performance, awards, team participation, or outcome. So what's allowed? A business can pay a student athlete a flat fee to promote the business on social media, regardless of playing time, statistics, or team success. Straightforward. What's not allowed? Saying, hey, Griff, I'm going to pay you $500 every time you score a touchdown or hit a home run. Another one saying, Brandon, I'm gonna pay you X amount of dollars in a bonus if you're named all conference or all state. You guys are going to kind of sense a theme here. A deal requiring a student athlete to remain on the varsity team to continue receiving their income, and then a sponsor paying a student athlete if the team they're on wins a district, regional, or state championship. So in reality, what this first one here is basically stating is we're not going to pay based on what you do on the field. We'll pay you as a student athlete a flat fee, but we can't do it as a per diem or, if you hit a home run type of thing. So that's the first one. Next one, this one I think is pretty synonymous and easy as well. Student athlete can only promote a local business in street clothes at a neutral location without referencing their school by name or image. Pretty straightforward there. Not allowed posting a sponsorship wearing your uniform for school, filming a PBA, again, personal branding activity, inside the school gym, locker room, or stadium, using the school's name or mascot or logo in promotional content, or tagging or linking the school.
That's pretty standard in college too. So
yeah.
I kind of figured that would run the same parallel.
Yeah. So kind of goes on and on here, guys. Another one, student athlete completes a PBA photo shoot or appearance outside school hours and not in connection with any school athletic event. Pretty straightforward as again. A student athlete independently signs a PBA agreement with a local business that has no formal or informal connection to the school. Endorsing age-appropriate and lawful businesses such as sporting goods stores, restaurants, clothing brands, fitness facilities, camps, or tutoring services. So, Brandon, Griff, first thoughts hearing what is and isn't allowed.
I would say this is about what I expected. I talked to Dan Jr. about this, Greasebaum Jr. about this, and I think he kind of summed it up nicely. He said that, this felt like they knew they were not going to be able to stop one way or another with everything just changing so much, and this was just a way to, put some legalities to it. I think at the end of the day, if this, I don't think this is going to affect as many people that they think it's going to affect. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Obviously, we have seen how far it goes at the highest level with college sports and Division I specifically. But even within Division I, we really only see it impact, like NIL specifically. We only see it really impact widespread football and basketball. We had Brian Sikowski on the show a couple of months ago or a month ago, whenever that was, and he kind of mentioned that even at the Division I baseball level, it's not as impactful as people might.
Yeah. So Griff, thoughts. First initial thoughts. Obviously, we're looking at this. Not only 8 hours old.
Yeah, this is going to affect the 0.0001% of athletes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what or let me put it this way. I think what's the most shocking to me is the school thing, right? Like going to a business and wearing a jersey and not being allowed to do that. Like that's weird to me.
I don't
Right.
know. I think with they don't do that in college either.
Yeah, but I feel like high school would be different. But also, I get it. You don't want to give, 14 to 18-year-olds, the ability to, mess around with that because they could misrepresent the school or something like that. I don't know. I I I just don't think like it's cool. It's awesome. It's a unique thing to say, but there's a lot of rules and regulations, and like I just said, like you guys have been saying, this is only going to affect maybe the top 5 football players or top 2 baseball players maybe in the class, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, football and basketball are the money makers, when it comes to college sports in general. Unless when you go down south, then baseball becomes a moneymaker. But generally speaking, in the Midwest, it's football and basketball, right? Like,
well, I think you might have just hit on what this might be too, is in these bigger areas. So obviously college football across the country, college basketball across the country, the big schools down south for baseball. You were seeing, whether at that time it was legal or not, businesses, donors, things to that extent, stepping up to woo kids in high school. Well, now to that extent, if let's just insert school here down south in baseball wants to really incentivize your kid, there's a business that might be now calling to now work with that in NIL ways, or what they're calling it, was it PBA? I keep thinking bowling when we say that now.
Yeah,
we keep talking the PBA. It's now allowed, unless there's a loophole that I don't know about, or I mean, it's brand new. I haven't had time to fully go in depth with this.
there's always going to be a loophole.
Yeah, there's always going to be loopholes. There's going to be ways around this. So you might start seeing that now, where those bigger kids is like, hey, we can now pay you $100,000 in high school now to really start incentivizing you to sign and stay here with us.
Yeah, no, I wonder how that's going to impact the private school sector, right? Like there might be an NIL package for each athlete.
Well, the school can't be involved with it at all.
The one thing it noted for now is that you can't have any association with that school in any capacity. Now, with that, how are they going to monitor that?
Well, that's the thing, is it can't. They're going to have to make sure that they're not sponsored. And I tell you how it's going to get policed is that everyone who plays against that team is going to be paying attention to that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it'll be a problem for the public schools, but the Catholic schools, as we know, they pay close attention to every move. So,
not to be this guy, you don't think Brother Ice is going to pay some guys? Come on.
I mean, they're not going to. I don't know if they're not allowed to be a sponsor of the school, which I know that there's like donors and all that stuff. And as you know, Brother Rice Park is covered in sponsors and all that. But I mean, you're talking about it's going to be tough. I don't know. That's the hard part. I do think that's like the dangerous part of this is that it's not policed well. And then you have the Brother Rices and the CCs and the St. Mary's of the world that have so many people that are business owners and entrepreneurs that participate in the school's funding or alumni or what have you, or have a kid there or whatever it may be. And then they start sponsoring an athlete to do whatever it may be. And that looks good in front facing, but then you get deeper into like the roots of it all. And then you figure out that there's connections between the school and keeping a kid there. And that's where this gets dangerous. And that's where high school sports starts to become like, what are we talking about? What are we doing here? And then it gets to the next conversation that we're not going to have quite yet, but then it becomes like, all right, well, if the private schools are really going to do this to that degree, then we really need to separate this, because you want to talk uneven playing field. We're already playing it on one as it is. That would really make it uneven at that point. So.
Yeah, this is going to be the new realignment conversation, right? Is how do we continue this, right? How do you manage it? How do you keep it so it's not becoming what, in a way, NIL has become in college football, with no salary caps, nothing. You got people poaching and everything to that extent. So it's only going to be a matter of time as we're sitting here thinking about it. You're going to have those local companies that, are going to be wanting now to help those student athletes to, do something, whether it's that Chinese restaurant down the road, the pizza place, the random fitness place that's right next to your school. Like, you're going to start seeing these companies wanting to do things to an extent, but also is it like schools aren't going to have someone that's in charge of these deals. And on a baseball side of things, I don't think many players are going to have agents helping them with these deals just yet.
No, not here. Not here.
No. Maybe one or two.
Florida,
that's about it.
Florida and Texas and like maybe even Cali, like those. Yeah, maybe it gets crazy there, but like
Florida, I know that. I mean, just comparing, you could transfer as many times as you want.
Yeah, it's literally it's like a portal.
Yeah, it's a free for all. There's no guidelines. There's no regulations behind it. I think my biggest, I wouldn't say fear, but it's like, okay, so let's just play a hypothetical game, right? Let's just say I'm not going to name a specific school, right? But let's just say I'm a donor at one of the top Catholic schools or private schools in the state, right? My kid played there, whatever, but I have all these ties within the school, right? What's stopping me from literally paying every single one of these athletes without using the school's name, right? Without using, because of the school, but what's stopping me from paying each one of these guys, $2,000 to come do like a promotion at my, car dealership?
Yep.
And because you're going to have a pretty good idea just from word of mouth, right? Who's going to be on the varsity team? Who's going to be, who's in seventh grade or eighth grade coming up, right? Like I just remember my experience when I went through high school. Like, I mean, I will say I got recruited coming up. Like the shadowing that gets done, in seventh and eighth grade, right? Oh, yeah, here we go. But no, like the shadowing that gets done in seventh and eighth grade, they strategically, let's just be honest, they strategically put you with a baseball player or with a football player, right? And their job is essentially do a official visit or unofficial visit at the school to make sure you have the best time at that school, right? Like I remember doing it. Brother Rice and Notre Dame Prep and at Bishop Foley were the three schools I did it at, and they made sure to make we did everything possible to make sure I was quote unquote there. Like met with the coach after, I'm in eighth grade, right? Like so I don't know, I'm 13 years old. But looking back on it, like that's where I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you don't think there's going to be, hey, we're going to kick you $3,000 off to the side if you come here, regardless if that's legal or not. That's what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I just think we're in the very early preliminary stages of all this, so how it all materializes is going to be interesting. Right. But I think baseball-wise, I can only speak for baseball in this regard. I think we have a really strong coaches association. I think that board is very tight-knit. I think that they're all aligned with how this is going to kind of go on moving forward, and I think everyone will keep tabs on that. And if someone wants to stretch the rules, so to speak, which I honestly don't think we'll get to that point, but if it does get to that point, I do think it won't be a secret and it won't be ill-publicized. I think we will know about it. It will be taken care of on the baseball side. I don't know where this is going to go everywhere else, but I can tell you that if Cold Weather Bats hears about some nonsense happening behind the scenes, then we're happy to talk about it. Like, that's all I can say.
Yeah, in really looking at this, just doing some searching while we're talking here, almost all 50 states, roughly between 40 to 45, allow some level of NIL or PBA or whatever three-letter acronym the state uses within their states. Don't know if what I'm reading is completely up to date, so I'll preface it with that. But looking like, the big ones around here, Ohio and Indiana, they still don't allow it yet. So Michigan is the first in the immediate Great Lakes that look to be allowing it to the extent of what they're doing. Obviously, the issue that you're running into. Yes, Griff.
Just wanted to, before you kind of go into that portion of your conversation. Okay. Another hypothetical. I love hypotheticals tonight. What happens if I have a kid, let's just say he's like a Toledo kid, right? He wants to go play. We have boarding at our school, right? You enroll, because private school, you can enroll from wherever you want, right? How do you? So let's just say I am paying little Johnny here $40,000, right, or $10,000, right, to do a ad for me, right? And he does the ad. You do it all the correct way. Does that money go towards the housing? Because what stops? Because that check, is going to go to his parents because he's not 18 yet, right? So that money is going to go to his parents. Can those parents pay for the housing? Because if it's a cash game, what's stopping you?
You hit on a real important point there too. If now we're talking about the fact that we're dealing with minors, right? So you now, like, there's the legality of it that we have, like the contractual agreements that might be written here, who, like, the liability if there is an agent involved, like all of these things now have to have another added layer where when you are looking at the college NIL, 99% of them are going to be 18 years old and adults. So,
but now to build off it, does this now incentivize guys to reclassify? Because now they get the money when they're 18. Just throwing another wrinkle into things. I don't know. That's where my brain's going, right? Because I was 18 before my senior year, right?
Crazy. I graduated at 17.
Same.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like some guys graduated at 17. Like I damn near graduated at 19, right? So it's like there's some thing where we're repeating 7th grade to collect a check later. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, this is the top 0.1% of our guys. Right. But like I can just see, like I don't know. I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of all this. I think I've always been a big fan of the NIL stuff. I want guys getting paid. I think they deserve to get paid. But like, I know that we're not talking about college stuff, but in college sports, we just got to put bumper rails on it, right? We got to figure out a way to regulate that, which it's going to be damn near impossible, right? Now, don't get me wrong. This, the Cranbrook Cranes, baby, we are not going to be, like this isn't a huge NIL market, right? Like, but at the end of the day, I think the top 0.01% of guys, if they're good enough and the background check and everything else checks out, go get paid, right? Or go get money, right? I'm a big believer in that. With that being said, we got to create, there's going to be guardrails and obviously all the different rules and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff that it's like taxes. There's loopholes, right? Yep. Like, and that's.
Heyo, IRS, Griffin Green.
Loopholes, baby. Don't make them if you can't do them.
I do think at the end of the day that we will just have like a few kids doing some like brand partnerships with like C4 Energy and like just simple stuff where they're making like $50 to post on social media because like Max Clark had a ton of followers when he was still in high school, and like Alex Mooney had a lot of followers when he was in high school, and like just kids that have that big, like Dante Nori had a lot of followers in high school. So like
those are the guys who should take advantage of that. Yeah.
Right.
And you're going right to my point that I was going to say is you're going to start seeing more kids are going to be trying to build their brands on their phones and on their social media now than ever before, right? If you're a player listening to this, well, this is your start now. You can build your brand on social media. If you need help, reach out to Cold Weather Bats. And really, like, you're going to start seeing players that are going to be posting everything and looking up to do all these types of things to start building a brand, to have these companies say, oh, I want, Joe Schmo at X school who has 30,000 followers from posting and growing organically to now sell our product. So,
if I see a kid tweet like, hey, I'm open to all NIL opportunities, and you're a kid who's throwing 84 miles an hour, and I'm gonna lose.
I guarantee you, there's already someone that's doing that has done that today.
I'm gonna lose my mind and be like, this is not the point. And I would be like, shame on you, who think this is a good idea. Come on.
No, I guarantee that's already happened today. I guarantee that's, if it hasn't, it's about to. If there needs to be kind of a crash course, and it's going to be a fun.
I feel like we got to educate the people. I think that's an episode down the line. We got to maybe do a crash course on what to do, what not to do. And not
reach
like
out to Griffin Green at coleotherbats.com, and
Griffin
he
Green
will
8,
instruct you
social
what to
media.
do.
I will send Twitter DMs all day long, baby.
Social media expert Griffin Green.
Kinda
Definitely gonna be an interesting topic, guys. This is gonna be one that we'll probably touch on a lot this spring, I'm sure. Here and there. That is going to lead us into our back half of our show. This
two good
is
candidates to talk about this, by the way.
What's that?
You got both sides of this, by the way, right here. We
do, and I'm just going to moderate this. So before we go into our private versus public discussion, we are going to we're going to hear from Just Bats. All right, let's talk bats for a second because the season is coming fast. Weather's starting to warm up, cages are filling up, and if you're still swinging last year's model, it might be time for an upgrade. If you need a new bat this season, do it the right way. Support Coweather Bats and grab yours through Just Bats. Why Just Bats? Easy. They've got one of the largest bat selections anywhere. Every brand, every drop, every certification. Most orders ship free, and if you order early enough, same-day shipping gets that bat to your doorstep even faster. Plus, if need be, they have bat experts that actually know what they're talking about. So you're not just guessing, you're getting fit correctly. New season, new bat, no excuses. Simply scan the QR code on your screen or go to the link in any of our social media bios. Support Coweather Bats, shop through Just Bats, and get ready to swing when it counts. All right.
Before we dive into this, Just Bats, great sponsor. I mean, it's the best. I mean, we won't have to go into it. I'm being 100% for real. They have saved me in my college career and in my high school career dozens of times. But that's what we're talking about. No free shout-outs. All right.
No free shout-outs. All right. Now, before we go into this, we'll just kind of preface what's leading us into this topic of private versus public. Saw this scrolling on social media. Shout out Metro Detroit golfers. If you guys can't tell, golfer here. Club's behind me, keeping them warm.
For sure.
And I'm going to just kind of read off here. So there's an update for the state of Alabama. Alabama high schools are joining Maryland, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. They are the only states to fully separate public and private school championships. Now, let's just say school championships. Something that has been debated in the state of Michigan in the past, openly, privately, everywhere in between. Currently, it's still a conglomerate of everything. There's more states now starting to adopt a split model. Conversation's probably going to start picking back up. We're going to pick it back up right now. Gentlemen, I will leave it to you. Private versus public.
All right,
what say you?
We'll start with this. Griff already said it. Like, he already pointed out how these things go for the private schools when there's an 8th grader coming in, okay? And, you know, I think we're lucky enough in Wyandotte to not have to deal with this too much. We do with, like, hockey with Gabriel Richard a little bit. Baseball-wise, not so much. But there are some downriver guys on Brother Rice, for instance. Alfredo Velasquez back in the day was a Melvindale kid who went to Brother Rice. So it does happen more often than you think in downriver. And so here's what I can say. You talk about opportunities for student athletes, and I can understand how a private school can be viewed as a better opportunity for a student athlete to go play athletics for a variety of reasons, whatever that may be. So I don't hate on anyone that decides to go to private schools, nor do I have anything against private schools in general whatsoever, whether it be just private in general or if it's like a religious thing or whatever it may be. It does not matter to me. Do what you got to do. The only thing I can say about it is that I would like for us to look into and potentially try and figure out, which can sometimes be a tall task for the MHSAA, which we have talked about ad nauseum in many topics. Look into what it would be like for us to separate these. Why? Because we are operating on two totally different playing fields here. Now, do public schools not recruit at all? I'm sure there are public schools out there in Michigan that one way or another tell a kid to come to their school for a variety of reasons before they're in high school, and then they inevitably end up going to that school because of the influence that person or representative of the school had during said conversation or plural conversations. But what I do know is that these private schools can literally recruit, literally recruit, and like there's nothing we can say or do about it. And as public schools, there's nothing we can stand on to defend that. We cannot hear about a kid being recruited by a private school and then step in and like try and get them to stay. We are just we can, but we're playing a risk of being the ones that are viewed as the issue. Like at that point, we're the incriminated because we're stepping in and talking to a middle schooler about coming to play for the high school in a way that's viewed as recruitment as opposed to a private school. And it's an uneven playing field when you get to essentially kind of to a degree pick what your team's going to be each year. There are private school coaches right now who know exactly who's coming into their 8th grade class next year or into their 9th grade class next year. They're all in 8th grade. They probably haven't even necessarily signed up or committed to said school, and they're spread out all across the state. They know which travel teams they play for. They went and watched them over the last summer. That's how they figured out they wanted them on their team. They've got 3 or 4 guys that go watch summer ball that they can trust to come back and tell them what information they need on these guys, and that's how they determine if they're going to end up coming there. And if you look real close into it, how many of these coaches are the director of admissions at these schools? And then you really start to think about how these things work. And so for those reasons, I have no issues with these private schools. I have no problem with how they run their programs. I wish we could run ours the same way. However, we cannot. Therefore, I do believe there is likely a scenario that will be beneficial for both parties to then separate their playoffs.
So before you go into yours, Griff, and I'll give you the floor. While Brandon was going through there, I just did some quick research here because we're an analytically driven podcast. 18 of the last 40 for D1, D2, D3, D4 over the last 10 years. So 18 of the last 40 were from a private school. So less than half. If you guys had to guess, which division had the most private school winners?
2.
3.
You might be right.
4.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
Small market.
Like how many?
And which had the least?
1.
Division 1, only 2. So as much and that was for D1 purposes, St. Mary's obviously in 22 and De La Salle in 2016. So just something to note. Less than 50% of it is coming from private. Does it really warrant it? Great discussion. Griff, I'll give you the floor here.
I think you have to just keep it as is. I mean, it's because everyone can sit here and talk about, and I'm not saying everyone like you guys, but just everyone can sit here and just say, oh, public or private schools recruit, private schools do that stuff, right? Okay, being an 8th grader, like I just mentioned, I was recruited, right? But I went to Rochester Adams my freshman year, right? So like I know for a fact that I was recruited by, a public school, right? It's just reality, right? Now, did I end up transferring and going to Bishop Foley? Yeah. But it's one of those things that, and why I transferred wasn't, I've got man of faith, but like it's, I didn't go there for offensive Foley for that education. I went there to play baseball, right? But the reason behind that isn't because I got recruited or isn't because like they offered something sweet or whatever. It's because of the coach, right? Like in high school baseball, the coach matters. And I think in order to fix the public school thing and the division thing, you have to allocate more money to these coaches. Because if you get a coach in there who actually but actually cares, right, about the program and the development of the program, look at Dakota, right? Look at Heartland. Look at all these other public schools. Like you're telling me all these Heartlands and Dakotas, these kids can't go to, Lutheran High North or Lutheran North or, Orchard Lake St. Mary's or Catholic Central or stuff like that, right? And I get it. Some public schools are better because they don't have Catholic schools in their area. I understand that point. But also I sit here and I'm like, if you are a reputable, high school coach, right, you're going to attract more players. That's just reality, right? It can be about recruiting and the admissions thing, whatever. But like chances are an 8th grader, if your parents can afford it, or you're going to go to that private school. Does it help being an athlete? Sure, right? But at the end of the day, no one's in private schools. No one's turning down tuition at this point, right? No one's turning down.
I mean, it's going to work. It's going to work both ways, right? I remember when I was at Farmington Harrison, there was kids that should have came to Farmington Harrison that ended up going to St. Mary's because of it. If we were better at that point, might have came to Harrison.
Like I live in White Lake, right? Our school district is Walled Lake Northern. If I have a son or daughter, when I have a son or daughter someday, or if I do, they're going to Orchard Lake St. Mary's, right? Not because of, I want to, tip the scale into the private school direction. No, it's because of the overall experience. I think it's a much deeper conversation than just athletics, right? It's not just because I think the way, I mean, we can go really into the weeds with education, right? But it goes a lot deeper than just, how things are right now from a athletic standpoint, right?
I do think that kind of points towards the fact that some of these schools, like I want to make sure it's clear that I do think a lot of these schools sell themselves too. Like a lot of these kids aren't necessarily recruited. Right. I do think it's really just the cream of the crop that is, but a lot of their depth comes from selling themselves. Like back when Orchard Lake was going on, and Orchard Lake still to this day is riding on. I wouldn't say this is going to sound like I'm downplaying their current coaching staff. Tonio was a great coach, and their program is still really good, and he picked up right where they left off in terms of.
I mean, it's hard to replicate what they did.
I just want to point that out when I say this, but like they're still able to get kids because of what they were a few years ago, on top of who they still are now. But those first couple classes when Tonio came in, like they were still benefiting from the fact that they just went 44-0 and I think overall, like whatever it was, 87-1 over a 2 year.
It's like Bishop Foley when I played. Right. Like I went to Bishop Foley. Like there's a reason why they won 4 state titles in 5 years.
Yeah.
Or 7 years or whatever. Right. 3 years I was there. 3 years we didn't win it. We've talked about that ad nauseum with Dan's meeting. All right. But regardless, like I didn't go to Bishop Foley. Like, I probably misspoke. I went to go to the Bishop Foley to play for Buster Sunday, that coach. Right.
Love
like
Buster.
I went there for the program. Right. Because of what they do from a overall, it'd be like a Grosse Pointe kid going to Liggett for Dan Cimini back in the day, right? Like if my son or daughter is serious, I'm going to look at it and be like, listen, I'm not like, and we have the funds and the means to do it, right? I'm going to be like, okay, who's the coach, right? Because if you're going to work with my son or daughter for 3 months or 4 months out of the year, right? Are they going to get better? Right. And they're serious athletes. I'm not talking about your random kid who's forced to take a gym class or forced to take a sport and run track or whatever. No disrespect to those kids. But like once you get to 13, 14 years old, you start to separate the kids who really want to play who really want to play college baseball and the kids who, just for baseball side really want and who don't. You're as like a future parent, Ruby, and you could probably speak to this more because you got 2 little ones. But like you're going to go where the right coach is.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's the overall experience. Because remember, these kids are still 13, 14 years old when they're getting recruited. Yeah. Right. Now, I'm against completely the whole, without going, talking about recruiting. And that's where I think the private versus public thing, I think it has to be one. Because if public schools are, and I get it, certain areas are more saturated than others. But at the same time, you have to – it's not really fair if you do public versus private. And there's this private school group that just are never going to compete, right? And they could be classified as a D4 school, right? But it depends how you structure private. Are you going to do private only and you're not going to do divisions? Then, a school like Sacred Heart up in Mount Pleasant, right? If they're having to play Brother Rice every single year, and I'm not saying they're not going to win, but like from
they split them up. There's enough private schools to split them up. I like fundamentally, I completely understand why someone would want to go to a private school just in a vacuum. I I think where things get dicey outside of just the recruiting element of it and like the quote unquote perceived uneven playing field of that regard, where I start to really get away from it is that, or I start to kind of shift towards maybe a separation of a playoff, is that when we are, like we talked about in the last episode, we're at a standstill with this playoff system where things are just so they just don't make much sense. There's not a whole lot of logic with how we do this outside of geographics. Here's my biggest problem. Geographically speaking, yeah, Brother Rice is in Birmingham. How many of those kids in Birmingham?
Handful.
Okay, same thing with and it goes on and on. How many kids live in Pontiac that go to Notre Dame Prep? Right? So
probably a couple. No, I think
so. Let me throw this point at you, right? How about with public schools? Because I know this is a district by district thing. Would you allow kids to do school of choice? I think you should.
Yeah, I mean, you want to do school of choice in
you're talking like a statewide school of choice?
I'm saying like from a public school standpoint, because most districts don't allow it. Like in Rochester, you don't allow it, right?
Well, that's the thing here is so Woodhaven's school of choice is really, I don't know what it is now. It might have changed, but from what I remember, it's rather simple to find your way into Woodhaven as a freshman. And that has had a decent amount to do with their success across athletics. I think baseball-wise, I think they kind of speak for themselves. And I know personally people who have moved to Woodhaven just to go to Woodhaven. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're moving to the city, you're moving to that by all means, that's your decision. You want to be a part of that program, and tip my cap. Good luck. That's the best I can say at that point. If you are committing that far, who am I to tell you that that's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that. And also, I know for a fact that the ones who are moving there are not being recruited there. It's just they see a public school in Downriver, go to a state championship twice in 6 years, whatever it is. And, of course, they want to be a part of that. Who am I to blame them, obviously? Same thing with Trenton. I mean, Trenton's got a really, really, really good education system, so they get a lot of kids that want to go there and move there because the area is really nice. It's probably the cleanest area downriver, I would say, if you're looking at a top to bottom thing. So naturally kids end up there from different communities around downriver. A little bit different here because GR outside of hockey doesn't really compete much to get kids here for specific sports. I just think my thought on it overall is when we get to the playoff format, I know public schools are not having a problem winning at the D1 level because how many kids are living in Macomb and not wanting to go to Dakota instead of wanting to go to one of those public? It's a different beast when it comes to those, I believe, at the tip top. But how many private schools are knocking out public schools in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16, and how much of them are taking up those final 16 or 8 teams? And I think that the method in which they are building their rosters is different than the ones that we are, and I think that's where things start to kind of fork in the road for me. I don't feel so strongly that I'm going to sit here and definitively say it's got to be that way, though. That's why I kind of off the top said I think it's something we can look into and look at the details of and gather data from both sides of the story and come to a conclusion. I don't think necessarily it needs to go one way or the other off the top of my head and based on what I know. If I had to lean one way or the other, I would lean toward a separation, but that's just because of the nature of how we're building our rosters versus how they're building theirs. My roster building is who plays for Wilson Middle School right now. I hope to God they come play for us next year. And that's it. I kind of hold my breath until September and hope that they're enrolled. And once they are, awesome. Nice to meet you, Coach Justice. Come work out with us. Here's when we're doing lifts.
Yeah, it's a real good topic. I mean, I'm kind of right in the middle of it. It's you got the separation of all the divisions already. Obviously, you got these private schools of all different sizes, and they factor in their enrollment into what division they need to fall into. You got it's about half, right? It's about half of the champions have been from private. Obviously, with the way the tournament structures, like we said, it's a whole different animal. Might not be the best stat to go off of as if it should be something that is dictated off of that.
I think part of that is we have to figure out a different seating format.
Oh, that's 100%. Yeah, and
I think that fixes a lot of issues, especially with because you look at Cranbrook, right? We play in a district with Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Notre Dame Prep, Bloomfield Hills, and I want to say Lamphere, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? That's or Country Day. No, it's not Lamphere. It's Country Day. So it's like we sit here, it's like, yeah, we're the Bloomfield Hills district, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, listen, boys might make a run this year. But like at the same time, let's play the odds game, right? There's no way all these districts, and also like way back when, Samini and Foley was going at it, it's like we played them in a freaking pre-district game. We were number 1 and number 2 in the state. It's like there's no way that should be allowed, right? And that's part of like, I think that's part of, and that's why like I understand the numbers. I don't really go off the numbers because it's like three public schools or one public school team can just run through their regional or run through their district, right? And then you have these private school teams who have just been battling it out for nonstop in order to make it, right? So there's different sides to each argument. I think personally when it comes to the public school stuff, I'm just like, listen, like deal with it. Right? Like
it's almost a mental fallacy, right? A lot of these public schools are beating themselves before they even get into the game, going against the private school, right? Like they're showing up saying, okay, we're going to go play a Notre Dame prep. And you're like, oh, well, they recruit, they do this. You're beating yourself before the game even starts with half of these public schools.
Like, listen, I went to Bishop Foley. We were Division III, right? I graduated with 72 kids, right? We were co-ed, right? Like we had arguably the best baseball team we were a top 2 baseball team for 7 years in Division III, right? Arguably in the state, back then. But the thing is like when we play all these schools, like it shouldn't matter. Like my biggest thing, what bothers me more is the divisions, right?
Yeah.
Like there is no way Bishop Foley went back when I played. We won in 2014. They won the state championship game. I think 18-0. Right? Like that's not that. In my opinion, that's not okay. Right? Especially like when you have a loaded group or people who load up in Division III or Division II, because they can sit here and just roll out whoever and they're going to win it. That's where I kind of am dicey with it, but also at the same time, it's very, I don't know. I think we can go a lot of different ways. I know we can talk about this, for hours, right? But just kind of sitting here saying like, I personally don't think we should do anything with it. I think the only thing we have to change is the seeding or the format of the of the state championships.
Well, with all that being said, conversation worth having. It's the whole point of this podcast. Have conversations, provoke thoughts, come up with ideas. Sometimes you have to throw things at a wall, not hope they stick, but just see what happens and don't feel one way or another when they don't. And that's what we're here to do. So when the NIL thing happens to realize, if anything comes of it, we'll be the first to discuss it to the best of our ability as we have information. And if the private versus public conversation ever materializes to where there's a motion or a proposal or what have you, we'll discuss it. We'll go into it. At this stage, obviously the NIL thing is very preliminary. We'll see how it comes to fruition. But it's important to have these conversations and discuss what could happen. And the same thing with the private versus public. It's actually not preliminary at all. It's actually at this point just non-existent. So until we get to that point, we're just kind of discussing hypotheticals. And it's important to have these conversations. I think that's why we started Cold Weather Bats in 2021, was to spotlight the players and the talent and the coaches, but to also have conversations that maybe other entities aren't willing to have, and therefore we're not pushing into a reality. And so hopefully we can continue to serve that purpose of the game here in Michigan. So that'll do it for today's episode, though. Just want to remind everyone to head over to social media and find us at Cold Weather Bats and everything from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, never going to call it X, YouTube, TikTok. And then you can also visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Cold Weather Bats. If you are a big fan of Cold Weather Bats, the best way to support us is on Patreon. You can also find all of our top 100 players from this season on there that we're rolling out as we head into the season, which we should be finished right around tryout week, maybe about a week later, but before opening day on March 19th. And then you'll also see team preview starts to roll out as we inch closer to the season. Find out more information about the player draft at coldweatherbats.com. If you're interested in sponsoring it, navigate your way there. Find a way to get in contact with us either via DM, email, or the easiest way is honestly to fill out the form on coldweatherbats.com. That does it for today's episode. Like and subscribe to the channel. Michael is definitely that way. I'm pretty sure I'm being mirrored the right way today. And then Griffin is below me, so this is an easy one. So for these two, I'm Brandon. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.
Go Bears, baby.